Afternoon Talk on SAFM.
Right, it's time to talk in the spotlight with the goodness of Vusi Thembekwayo. And if you find that name is difficult to pronounce, then how's this one here? The rockstar of public speaking. And that's not my title. John Howard, the former Australian Prime Minister, described you as that.
Yes.
Was it a compliment? Or did you find like, goodness, he's insulting me?
I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I've since grown to own the title. So, yeah, it was at a very interesting time in my life. I was just establishing myself as a professional speaker, and I went and I delivered an address at the Aussie Houses of Parliament, and it's not customary for the head of state to speak after they've had a guest speaker. And he got up and he said, "You'll excuse me, I'd like to say something, if it pleases the House." But he sort of roared and clapped and hit the tables, and he said, "I want to call Vusi the rock star of public speaking." He said it in the Aussie accent, so I never got. I was like, "What? The rock? What? What's this guy talking? What team? This guy?"
I hope you didn't say it's like, or maybe you didn't think this man is crock or something along that line as opposed to rock.
I hope not.
But you got the message. He was complimenting.
Yeah. I got it.
When did that happen? How long ago?
This is years ago. I was So what? I'm 27 now. I was 20 at the time, 1920.
So 7 years ago.
Yeah, man. Long time ago. Long time. Right at the beginning.
So that's in fact who we're talking about, the rock star of public speaking. A huge title to live up to. It's like, you know, when Muhammad Ali says I'm the greatest, or what is it, Jose Mourinho, in fact, suggesting that I'm the special one, he's got to deliver every single time. In today's case, the man in the spotlight, then the rock star of public speaking, Vusi Thembekwayo. So there you are. I mean, as you've progressed over 7 years, has that been a motivator, a spur on, or has it actually been problematic to live up to that sort of belief?
No. I find that if you believe in your greatness, you create it by the sheer function of you believing in it, right? So people live out what they believe in their minds. If you believe you're average, you'll live an average life, because that's what you believe of yourself. You believe I'm an 8 to 5 kind of guy, you'll live an 8 to 5 kind of guy. If you believe I'm middle management kind of guy, you live that. So my entire hypothesis in life is that we are a manifestation of our beliefs. The lives we live and the destinies we reach and the impact we have or not on the people around us is a function of our beliefs. It has little to do with our abilities. And that's why if you look at history and you look at people that have changed the course of history, they've had, in essence, nothing extraordinary. Muhammad Ali was just a tall guy, very skinny, who could box well. But he couldn't box any better than any other fighter of the time. That's why he lost so many fights. But he won more than he lost because he had a belief that said, I am better than the other guy. So we're a manifestation of what we believe. What we believe is what we live out.
And by belief, I mean, are you talking, because sometimes people can get confused, belief as in religious belief. We're talking about the mind here, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm talking about the little truths you tell yourself when it's just you and your lonely self in the toilet. You know, and you'll excuse my candor, but it's the little truths that occupy your mind. It's the little garbage or sort of rich content that you let fill your mental space. And so the challenge we have, especially in this country, is in the dialogue we're having has become so toxic that you're finding more and more people are having toxic conversations with self. There's very little hope and dreaming and aspiration. And, you know, I'm very privileged in the sense that I'll get to talk to a group of 40 CEOs in some of the world's leading countries who run the top companies in that country. And then I'll come back and I'll get to talk to young people in Guamashu or Lusigisigi. And I get to watch just the mindset, because at the end of the day...
And you deduce what?
Well,
let's compare the CEOs with those youngsters of Guamashu.
Well, I'll tell you, the CEOs generally have a perspective of possibility. That's the first thing. The second thing is they have an attitude of authority. So their attitude is, I can actually change what's about to happen. What you're finding when you come here is the perspective is one of less ability and less possibility, but also that the entire demeanor, especially amongst the young people, dare I say, young black people, is that of lack of effort, lack of control, and lack of possibility, and not understanding that actually the mastery of destiny is a function of what you do, and less about what you are given. It's about what you want to achieve.
All right, so there you are. How's that for an opening remark? I mean, if that's got you switched off, you've got to be joking. Really, every reason for you to stick around with me as I put Vusi Thembekwayo in the spotlight for the next 45 minutes or so. 0891 104 207. 0891 104 207. If you've, I tell you what, if you're related to him, I'm just checking. You can call in
Steady.
But even if you're not related, you can still call in as well.
Steady.
If you'd like to be related to him, you can call in as well. But also, if you've worked with him, if you've heard him, I think Earl Smiles says he heard you on SAFM before, by the way. And Earl says this guy is truly an inspiration. I wish I can meet him in person. Earl, you should have come to the studios today. Well, if you want to still rush over right now, then there's a chance for you to set up that meeting for you. But also, if you want to SMS 34701, so I've made the point already. If you've heard him speak, I'd love to get your input, share some anecdotes as well as we talk about someone who's quite legendary in terms of what he's done. Someone saying, Vusi, how long did you spend in the States?
Collectively?
Well, answer the way you want.
Maybe 2 months.
What are they suggesting?
Yeah, that's precisely my my somewhat hesitant response. Look, I will put this out as a disclaimer for those people at home who are sitting wondering why I talk the way I do. I think the real reason is that I watch too much Top Gear, and then in the evenings, when my wife is sleeping, I maybe switch on to some Jay Springer. So I'm a fair blend of both. But I'm a local boy. I grew up in Benoni. I went to Wits University. I'm a local boy.
Now, how much of a problem? I mean, I won't say how much of a problem is that for you, but how many people, when they find out that in fact you haven't spent time in the USA, then will say, you know the usual story about this whole coconut theory and all that sort of thing, right? Where you're obviously good. We don't have to even discuss the talent that you have.
Yeah.
But they will still sort of poke fun at you to say, goodness, this guy's not one of us type of stuff. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think it comes back to that whole thing about people needing to create reasons and excuses why they cannot be. And as a function of that, they create these extraordinary characteristics that the other guy who has that they don't have. Right. So you'll hear people say something like, well, and if I may, and I know it's an unpopular subject, but you'll hear young people say, well, I can't be Julius because he was mentored by Peter Mokaba, for instance. When in fact, we don't know the impact that that mentorship had. And if it's in any way driven his belief in self. So it doesn't affect me at all. I kind of grew up with it. I will say this, and I just wrote a blog about it. When I was a little boy, my daddy raised me to believe that as a people, as a young generation of black people, our fundamental task on this earth was to raise Africa to her rightful place. And that's what he raised me to believe. The second thing he used to say to me was that I need to understand that the people around me have been so conditioned to accept black failure that they find it difficult when a black level of excellence comes across. They find it difficult to accept and assimilate with.
And that could be black people as well.
Yeah, naturally.
Specifically.
Yeah, naturally, yeah. So what he was in turn trying to say to me is, when in your path you encounter the very people with whom you would think would support you, and they don't take it personally. It's because in their minds they have been taught to believe that nothing of your color can be of any quality. And that, by the way, let me just make this point out right. It's not a South African thing. It's not an African thing. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Any part of the world that you go to, you find that our people suffer from exactly the same illness.
Okay, talk to me about, you have done many things. So I'll sort of give you 5 lines to state sort of 5 things that you've achieved so people know.
Wow, that's a toughie. 2-time world public speaking champion. Ranked 3rd in the world.
Undefeated sounds like a boxing champion.
Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. 2-time finalist.
Two-time what? World public speaking champion.
Okay. Two-time finalist Entrepreneur of the Year award. I've won the SMME Business of the Year award. I've done at 24. I was an executive of a multinational running a 400 million rand business. I've done a fair bit. I've been around, dare I say, in my youth.
And all this in this country.
Yes.
I mean, you may have participated overseas, but I mean, you're what? You're an example. You're testimony that you can be South African. You can well be, and I'll say it, you can be a black South African, and you can thrive. Yeah,
I think you know, Ashraf. I think we need to understand that as South Africans, we are the obstacles to the very things we want to achieve. Nobody else is. Nobody else. There's no agencies out there running around trying to stop us from achieving our true greatness. We are those obstacles in what we believe in and of ourselves. I'll recount a story. When I started my first business, it was my closest friends who said to me it would never work. It wasn't the guys I was dealing with in other parts of the world. They were like, wow, fantastic, great, do it. And they didn't even understand the local nuances of the country we live in. It was my closest friends that said to me, nah, we don't think it'll kind of make it, right? So we are those very obstacles. And we need to realize that as a South African people, is that we are the obstacles to the things we want to achieve. Nobody else. It's not what the media is saying. It's not what we're reading. It's the things we believe about ourselves.
How many people believe what you're saying? Meaning, what you've just said, I understand it, but...
Yeah.
Why do I have the sense that many people may be listening to you and I talk and say, this guy makes a lot of sense, and I go back home tonight, or they're sitting at home and they get back into that same sort of ghetto mentality. And I call it to a large degree a censorship of the mind, where you often talk about you often talk about the country censoring, as we know we've gone through apartheid.
Yeah.
But the biggest crime has been self-censorship, where we have an opinion and we don't want to articulate that opinion because we're just scared what other people say, so we censor ourselves.
Spot on. I'm going to copy that. I'll pay you royalties. I really like it. But I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? I think you've hit the nail on the head. It is, as you say, it is around, But let me just also make this. Philosophers through time have spoken about this concept of what they call the second level of consciousness. So if you say to somebody at home, what is the world's most spoken language? And they said English. And he said, no, it isn't. Now they know that English is not the world's most spoken language. But if they didn't know that there's a dialect of Chinese called Mandarin, they didn't know that they didn't know. So a lot of our people live lives based on that second level of ignorance. We're living lives that are a manifestation of what we believe because we don't know what we don't know, right? And that's why you're finding some of the most innovative, incredible businesses that exist in our communities today are generally founded by people who've managed to break through that level of ignorance, who've managed to break through some of those barriers that exist in their mind. But that is a function of two things. One, it's about believing that you can do it, and it sounds all airy-fairy and motivational, but it's a fact. It is about believing it. And the second is you've got to be a sucker and a sponge for information, because that's the only way you break that level of ignorance. You've got to be looking for different pieces of information, some of it assimilated, some of it completely erratic. But you've got to find it, you've got to fish for it, you've got to consume it, because at some point in your life, it'll be necessary for you to break through.
So do you agree that people don't want to consume? Because they're too busy, they're too tired.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they'd like to.
Yeah, but also...
They don't really want to at the end of the day.
But also, we live in a country, right? In fact, let me rephrase. We live in a generation where we are served so much, we want to be served everything. So you walk into a restaurant, you're served a pot of coffee. You go home, you're served food. You go to the office, you're served a job. That's why you have people talking about getting jobs as opposed to creating jobs. Because nobody wants to be the server. We all want to be served. I put out an interesting tweet this morning. I said to my followers, I said... it sounds so arrogant, isn't it, my followers? But I said to my connections in Twitterland, I said to them, what is, over the past 25 years, what has been the most successful stock in the U.S. stock market? Everybody came back. It's Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, or it's Apple. I said, no, it isn't. It's a company called Finitech. Everybody then said to me, what the hell is Finitech? I said, exactly. Finitech is a business that was started 26 years ago. They listed a year later, and they make nuts and bolts. That's what they do. Yeah. But they're the most innovative creator and distributor of nuts and bolts. They make sexy nuts and bolts. Wow. So they found a business that is ubiquitous no matter where you are in the world, and people need it. But because we're so used to being served information about the stuff that is now and current, nobody takes the time to go and look for the stuff that isn't known. Breaking that second level of ignorance.
Okay, Old Smile said he wanted to meet you. If you can't do that, you certainly can talk about it. Another one saying, Ashraf, your guest is your guest a South African? Is he into politics? That comes from Daniel.
Very much.
In Kuruman. Okay, so, but by the way, before you answer that, 0891 104 207 if you want to call in. We are chatting to a man who's got lots to say. There's no doubt about that one. And I prefer people who have lots to say rather than people who have absolutely nothing to say. Vusi Thembekwayo. Lots more you can hear from him right after this.
Afternoon Talk on SAFM.
Right, so we chat to the king. No, not the king. That's like Elvis, the rock star of public speaking. Is the man in the spotlight. That's the title given to him, by the way, by John Howard, the former Australian Prime Minister. Let's take some calls. 0891 104 207. Well, before I get to Arnold, okay, that question that somebody asked you, let me just see if I can find that. Do you remember that question I asked you?
No.
Before the break. Okay, we'll come to that in just a second. But
I think it was the whole is he political thing.
Okay. Hold that thought for a moment. Let's just get to Arnold in Durban. Hi, Arnold.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Go for it.
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate having somebody like that on your studio. It's actually inspiring and also just fresh breath from some other people who have got other theories other than which are not real, but this one is actually real. And Vusi, I have met you before. Obviously tonight I try to be somebody who is just right there at the corner without actually showing himself up. But you really have done well. You're my role model, and I'll follow you all the time. And keep it up.
Thank you,
well done.
Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, very nice call. Okay, we'll get to the politics in just a second. Gavin in Durban. Hi, Gavin. Gavin, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, Gavin, you're on the radio.
It's actually Devon, but in any case...
Okay, Devon with a D, eh? My apologies, it says G. All right, go for it.
No problem. I just wanted to say, man, I think it's the second time I've heard this gentleman on the radio. And I wanted to say, my brother, you impressed me. You seriously impressed me. You know, there's a lot to be learned here. A lot of people will say something about accents and so on and so forth, but there's something beating, there's a fire beating inside you that I think all of us as young people in this country should actually emulate you. And I'm very impressed. And every time I hear you, I just want to do more for this country. You know, I just want to jump up and high and do great things. And my brother, keep up the good work and keep up sending that message and to our young people. And you impressed me, man. Congratulations, well done. Keep up the good work. And if you sound like somebody who loves South Africa, and that's what I like about you. And the message that you also send out is extremely powerful. And I hope that more young people can hear what you're saying from all corners of South Africa.
Thank you,
So
Devin.
you impress me.
Thanks again.
Could you see him lead the country, Devon? He's only 27, so he's got lots of time. He could, he still qualifies for 8 years with the ANC Youth League. By the way, I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Could you see him lead the country one day if you chose?
Leadership is such a complex issue, especially in our country. Yes, he does have leadership qualities. And the fact that he's young, he sort of reminds me of me in a certain way. But in any case, he impresses me. He impresses me, especially his achievements at a young age. And it's good to see that there are so many young people out there. South Africa's got so much talent. And I definitely could see him leading the country one day.
Indeed. Okay, so there you are.
It's just that South Africa needs brave people. And you need to be brave, you need to speak, and you need to do what you set out to do.
Okay. Nice call, Devon. Thanks so much. Okay. Remind you just like him. Interesting one indeed. All right, we're going to talk about the politics. I'll take the one more call now, then we'll talk about that. Alfie in Ramsek. Hi, Alfie.
Ashraf, how are you?
I'm very good. We haven't chatted in a while.
Yes, but you've got a phenomenon. I couldn't resist to call in your studio.
Okay, well, that's the whole idea, to sort of entice you.
The age. In your studio, you've got a living legend. I've had a privilege of meeting Vusi on several occasions, and I'm his student. And Ashraf, I'm 40 years old. But if you reduce that man to young age, you're selling him short. I can tell you now, Ashraf, the power and the fire that is in the belly of young man. If it can explode, it can set this country alight. Vusi, Your Majesty Mfana, and keep it up. And as you know, I call myself your student. I'm a speaker myself, and I was motivated by Vusi to be a speaker, Ashraf.
Oh, lovely.
And he's not only a speaker. He is studious. He is intelligent, intellectual, par excellence. This man is complex. It's a package. You don't get them so easy. It's a dynamite. I can serve as his praise singer, Ashraf.
Well, there you are. In
Thank
fact,
you, Alfie.
you've done that already, Alfie.
Thank you, man.
Because this could well be his coronation anyway. There we are, Alfie in Ramsar. Let's talk. I'll get to the other callers in just a second. Okay, some of them. The question we've had about the politics. Are you into politics?
Well,
that's a very important question.
I think you can't live in South Africa in our modern day and not be political. Whether in your opinion or inclination, you have to be political. I think, by the way, that if you're not political, you're a part of the problem. A part of the challenge we face in this country is that too many of us young people are too keen to start protesting. We need less protestations and more forms of action. We need to start mobilizing, and not through the streets, but in our actions and the things we do. But to answer your question, I'm incredibly political. I'm political in my inclination, in my point of view, in my opinion. I try to inform myself as much as I can. I think we're going through a watershed moment in our country at the moment. I think it's fitting. I think it's about time. I think the events of this country over the past 4 or 5 years since the ousting of our president have created a situation wherein it is only natural and fitting leaders from here on out who will eliminate and lead this country forward. Dare I say that if they don't, we'll find ourselves in a rather precarious position.
Okay, so in a minute, give me your thoughts on the political landscape in this country then.
Wow.
You can't be tongue-tied.
What would you want to know from me more specifically?
Well, I mean, ANC, Zuma, Malema, DA, where the country's going. There's talk of doomsday scenarios. You're well aware of it, but you also made the point earlier on about just the strong the mind is, and you've also said, now, if you're not political as a youth, and you're actually part of the problem, which I thought is well worth retweeting, by the way, right? Yeah. So, I mean, just give me your analysis of where do you think the country fits or sits right now, and where's it going to go to? I
think we're at, and I'll re-emphasize my point when I said I believe we're at a watershed. Mm-hmm. We're in a watershed in this country because it is over the past 18 years, maybe slightly longer, that we've let the appearance of the individual become the individual. So people have been appraised or not based on how we perceive them. Mm. And I think we're finally moving into an age of intellect and reason and facts and statistics. And you can hear it. You can hear it in some of the debates that are happening on the radio. You can hear it in some of the debates that are happening over the television. People today are wanting more and more information. Mm. But I do believe we're at a watershed in the sense that my hypothesis is that as a country, for us to move forward, we'll need to do two things. The first is we'll need to look beyond the skin of the person. And we really will need to do that, because the leaders and the natural leaders that eliminate may or may not be of our complexion. Mm-hmm. But if they understand the agenda about what we're trying to achieve as a country, then they're rightfully fit.
Well, you see, for that to happen, it does mean, if we're talking in the present tense, it means doing away with affirmative action, doing away with broad-based BE. It does mean that, isn't it?
Not necessarily. I'm not of the view that the one is the sharp side of the other sword. I don't believe that at all. I think those initiatives are necessary. I think those initiatives need to be in place. Lest they don't exist, we will not correct the imbalances of the past. And some of the unrest we've seen of our country over the recent past will be child's play compared to what will come. So I don't believe that at all. But I think what I'm trying to articulate rather is this: that as a conscious and informed public, we will need to make our decisions based on a different value matrix. Because our decisions to date have been based on the past, they've been based on brand association, they've been based on rhetoric, they've been based on all the stuff that's easy and great to see and gets us emotionally fired up. But many of us, most of us, dare I say, have not taken the time to probe further and look deeper. It's precisely for that instance that once a person has ascended to, rather strong positions, we are then disappointed by their actions because we've created a country wherein which we didn't probe further when we were putting those people in power in the first place.
Okay, I have lots more to ask. I know you certainly have as well, but I'll tell you what, we're going to go through those questions in a moment. Someone just saying, by the way, I love Vusi via SMS. I find him so inspirational. Thanks for having him on the show. He's a true testament to what is possible. We need more like him. Strength to you, Vusi. Hi, Ashraf, and your guest. Is your guest another one? Is he South African? So there was another question around that one there. Not that I think it's going to bother you. What is going to bother you? We're going to have to put you on pause for 3 minutes.
Afternoon Talk on SAFM.
Right, we are continuing putting Vusi Thembekwayo in the spotlight. Vusi, I'm going to pick out maybe two more calls. The last two I'll make, because I need to get into your story, because we know what you do. We know you inspire. The question is why, in fact, do you inspire? And what were the moments that defined your life in terms of where you are now, besides your dad chatting to you? Livu in Pumble, let's get to you first up. Hi, Livu.
Hi, Ashraf.
How's it, man?
I'm good in yourself. Hi, Vusi, how's you?
So one of it.
I'm okay. Vusi, I'm listening to you here and I'm inspired by what you do. And I am a principal of a high school in Soweto.
Yes.
And then listening to you, I can't help it, but I'm wondering, how do we tap into that kind of a potential and impart it to the learners at school, who will then dream dreams that they can also achieve more than what you have done?
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
That is mainly it.
All right, we'll get an answer.
We would want, as a school internship, really to engage you at the grassroots level where you come down and then so that you can impart such kind of a skill that you have in a school situation, in a setup where learners could be inspired, their lives can be changed, and they are going to go out there and inspire other learners and do more. The school, therefore, and the learners in the communities around us, then begin to do good.
Yes, sir. No, okay. I understand the question. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that call. Okay, you can answer that in just a second.
Sure.
Let's just take the last call for now. Rufus in Four Ways. Hi, Rufus.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yes, Rufus. How's it, man? Go for it.
I'm okay. Vusi, hi.
So one of it.
I'm not seeing you this day at the business center. Ashraf, I happen to have been to quite a number of sessions, some of the networking sessions, and where Vusi was. Just want to share one anecdote.
Yeah, great. I'd love that.
I was actually sitting in a forum, and there was a panel presenting on a political issue, and Vusi happened to raise a question. And the person that responded to the question, the first thing he said, "Oh, what a nice English." So the type of presentation and English speaking that Vusi presents, he does not seem to be a South African. You would simply think he's actually an American. But and the messages that you listen to Vusi when he presents his talks, for me he's extraordinary. He's not just a simple motivational speaker like many that I have actually listened to. You listen at the experience, you listen at the intellect and the material that Vusi presents, and I think this country must really pride itself by having people such as Vusi. I wish you well, my brother.
Yeah, Bonafide.
There you are. Wow. Lovely call indeed. Let's just talk about, because there are many SMSs. I can do another very, very complimentary about what you do, and I'm in this privileged position. I've told you this, off the air, Vusi, that I'm never bored, never boring, because I chat to some of the most significant people every day in the studio in that hot seat that you're sitting now. And I'll say this much now, that you come across as one of the most inspired people I've ever interviewed. So take that as a compliment, but it's exactly what it is. True. Okay. Now I can understand if I'm saying so, then people sort of off stage are saying, I need to be here, right? But where do you see your role then in South Africa?
So that's a good question. Now, let me juxtapose it by saying this. I think, like many young people, when I first started, it was all about a profit motive, how to make money. But I've come to a point in my career and in my life where it is about how do you make a meaningful difference? Because it is through social impact and making ourselves socially cogent as individuals that we can really begin to become wealthy. So we need to redefine our definition of success, as my good friend Kojo Bafo puts it. Our definition of success needs to be all-encompassing and talk more to what we as individuals achieve, lest, and eliminate from that the money equation. But to answer your question more directly, so I just see myself as a vessel of what is possible. That's it. My definition of self, and I wrote it in a recent blog the other day, I said, my definition of self is that I am man, I am artist, and I'm orator. I'm the epitome of potential in African youth, absolute and extreme. That's my role. My role is just to create what is that potential and to epitomize it in action, in thought, in speech, in language, and in manifestation of what it is that we achieve.
And
that's all I see
creating,
myself as.
you're not putting any boundaries. So I can't say, you're not saying, I'm going to continue into business, I'm going to start this global empire, or I'm going to go into politics. I mean, you're not saying any of those things.
No. I think, look, I'm at a point as well where if opportunities present themselves, we will look at them. The other day, a group of young people came to me and said that they're very unhappy by the lack of action by the NYDA. And I say this broadly on the radio because I've been making a lot of noise about it on Twitter, that I believe that as an organization, as a body, they're completely useless. And I say that very, very passionately because we've had very bad experiences dealing with them. So, and they came to me and they said, can you lead a charge against this lack of action? I said, absolutely, boldly. So I'm a business person. I'm enterprising. I get to speak in 4 continents, 17 countries every year. But that does not absolve me of my social responsibility. Where injustices exist, we as a people need to take an action. Not as a black people or white. We as a people, as South African people, need to take action and need to be vocal about it.
So are you going to get into politics?
Look.
Who's knocking on your door? I mean, that's a more important one. I mean,
nobody.
Has the PAC knocked? I'm just checking. Has the Freedom Front knocked on your door? I'm testing you out. The ANC, the DA.
Nobody's knocked.
Someone said, by the way, I want to read this one here,
Yeah.
which I think you're going to find really interesting. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, where is it? In fact, I'll get to it in a moment. Okay.
Knocking on
Some of the others saying, Ashraf, your guest sounds... Okay, here's the one. Your guest sounds like Lindiwe Masibuko. Please ask him... Okay, please ask him whether he can say he is not DA, please. It's almost like he's begging you to say that. That comes from Tabo in Randburg. So can you please tell Tabo that you're not DA, please?
Tabo, look, my political inclination in this discussion is completely irrelevant, but I can assure you, comrade, that I am not DA. And I don't want to assure you as a function of saying that I don't believe in anything that the DA represents, but just that I'm not, I'm not ashamed of what my political view is. Having said that, I do quite enjoy our good friend Lindiwe Mazabeko.
Okay.
Because I often joke
You
when
do
I'm
sound like her. Yeah.
I often joke when I'm on stage and I say, I'm a coconut, I'm a proud coconut. I've known it for all my life. I belong to a union called COCU, the Congress of Coconuts Union. We're an affiliate of COSATU. But even we were shocked when Lindiwe Mazabeko came out. So we're like, yeah, this girl is a coconut.
There you go. All right.
Anyway.
Some quick, because I want to we've got about 3 minutes to go, so
Yeah,
very
yeah.
quickly. But some of the comments. Ashraf, thanks for bringing this guy in. If we choose him with Ramaphosa, Motsepe, Dr. Somadoda, Paulo Jordan to run the country, it would be heaven. That comes from BK in Durban. I'm 60 years old, never heard of him or heard about him, but I'm blown overwhelmingly. Where else can he be heard or seen? It comes from Khadija in Cape Town. Another one saying, why do we need guys like this to run our beloved country? More of him and less of Julius. That comes from YK in Pietermaritzburg. We don't know what we don't know. We're talking about unconscious incompetence. Okay, let's just quick one in terms of where they can get hold of you. I can give out my email address, ashraf@safm.coza. By the way, if you're stuck on anything, you can, I'll pass on the information. But what do they need to do? I mean, do you have a website?
Yeah, so my website is www.vusi.co.za, VUSI.co.za.
So simple,
very simple.
So nobody registered Vusi.coza before you?
No.
Wow.
No, I've got Vusi.co.za, I've got Vusi.com. Okay. Vusi Matlaselo was very upset when I got both.
And you're not Vuyo, that entrepreneur in the Vuyo advert.
No.
That made it big.
Next Mark Niburovos.
Okay, there we go. Sounds like an Afrikaner. Could do well, speaking of the Freedom Front, by the way. Right, quick things. Let's talk about your career. You're born where, school where, university, what did you do?
I'm a Benoni boy.
Right,
I went to Egukanyeni school, then I went to Benoni High. I started public speaking at 15 in school. First time on stage I was booed off. I worked at it, and by the time I was 17, I was a world champion public speaker.
So you didn't go to a private school?
No. I'm a very public school boy. Yeah.
Why do you think you made it? I mean, at that age, because thousands that will come from that same community as yours are not only fallen by the wayside. Are probably the guys protesting in the streets right now.
Yeah, I'm very privileged. I had an incredible father, And it was incredible, not in the sense of economic means, but my dad spent so much time with me creating a winning mindset. And he was insistent on this. My dad used to say to me, it's not enough to participate. You need to win and win boldly. So they had a rule at home, like you don't come home and say you've started a new sport unless you're absolutely confident you're going to win at it at the beginning of the month, at the end of the year. And so it created a habit of continually wanting to win and a habit of excellence. So I think it's something that has propelled me in my entire life. And you touch on a very difficult subject. The other day I went and I did a talk at Leeuwkop, and it was a maximum security facility. There's a guy there who's killed 17 people, and the Facebook killer was in the room. And I said to them, your biggest failure as people in this prison is not that you've committed a crime against society. It is that there are children walking around in the townships unloved, unwanted, and unappreciated. And they will never know their true greatness because you, as their fathers and strong black men, are sitting in here.
You're not there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, that's... And we need to understand that is a functional part of the role we play in our society. We must be relevant.
Okay.
And we must be
I'm going to go... Goodness, we sadly have 60 seconds to go, so we're going to rush it. One is a book that you'd recommend us to read. You can answer this in one go.
Yeah.
Is there a quote that you'd love us to take home with, right? And if you have an autobiography, what would you title it?
So
You've got 45 seconds.
I'm busy with my book
Right.
at the moment, and the title of it is I'm not sure yet.
Is that the title?
No. We're busy working around it. The second part is a book that I would definitely recommend. Would have to be Robin Sharma's Leader Without a Title. I would recommend that to anybody.
Right.
It's completely relevant.
Many people
and it's
recommend it.
ubiquitous.
Spoke about the monk without
And
a Ferrari.
and that.
So Leader Without a Title, right?
Yeah, that and Malcolm Gladwell's Blink. I know the other titles are great, but I really prefer Blink.
That follows Tipping Point.
Yes, but for me, Blink had it. Like Blink got it.
And then the quote very quickly.
My favorite quote.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm stumped. Nothing comes to mind.
Okay, for a man who's like the rock star public speaking, who's a champion, a world champion.
Wait, I got one very quickly. I got one. Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
1964, about to fight George Foreman. No, it was 1974. And he says, I am a believer. I am a believer in my own true greatness. I am a believer in the things I'm about to do. I'm a believer in the circumstances I'm about to change. I am a believer.
Okay. And that's someone who actually did achieve. We know that. This is a guy who was a 27-year-old Laitike. Goodness, could well be the future president of the country one day. If that's the case, I'd like to be by his side in some form or the other. Time now for Radio Vuka. Now for Radio Vuka. Now for Radio Vuka.